Peter, it's so nice to talk to you. We have been talking about 7 characteristics of rocking the CFO role, but we have not discussed at length the one that wraps up, that really drives all the 7, which are about cross-functional, which is about going beyond the comfort zone and drive change. Be perfect communicator, be the master in communicating, telling the story we want to tell to the wider audience, our teams, the stakeholders, the board, which is about driving the cultural change, making it happen, really use finance capillarity to drive it throughout the organization, and continuous learning. But all that requires courageous people, requires professionals with the passion that show that passion and that really can make that change. How do you see that? How we finance function CFOs can drive that?
Yeah, but no, as you say, it's, for me it's vital. It's a key part of moving the CFO to the next level, because I think in the past we all know that CFOs had a role where they were reporting, they were the custodians of the sort of the money, the bean counters, looking after the finances, but maybe not a key role in some companies. But to be the rock star CFO, you have to be one of the key figures. If not, together with the CEO, I would say the CFO plays maybe the second most important role within a company. So to do that, you have to have character and charisma. So maybe charisma is one where I would start by saying you have to have this energy, this zest, this passion for what you do, and be able to transmit that to all of the stakeholders that you're talking to, whether it be within the company, the employees, the peers of the CFO, whether it be the owners, the shareholders, whether it be customers, regulators, whoever it may be. The CFO is a key role and has to show that energy, that power that they wish to transmit to the stakeholders. A CFO can work on this. All these things, some people believe they're natural gifts that someone has, but all of these things can be learned, all of these things can be worked on, and I just believe it's part of what any CFO that wants to get to the next level has to simply work on these things day by day, work on together with communication, work on being able to express themselves succinctly, concisely, and show that energy and that power. And then together with that charisma comes character. So it's vital that the CFO has strong character, strong values. So as I think we briefly mentioned last time, I'm a big fan of Greek philosophy, the Stoics in particular. The Stoics said there were 4 main virtues and values to have a good character, to be a good person, and I believe to be a good leader. And they were wisdom, justice, temperance, and courage. So to be wise as a leader, as a CFO, to know what needs to be done, to be fair, to be just to all the people that work with you, to be honest with them, to be temperate. That means to show not huge swings in emotion, because no one wishes to work with someone who, when they get stressed, they show their stress, or they're emotionally high one day, low one day. You have to be able to stay with what you're doing, stay temperate. And then the final one is courage, which I think we can go into more detail on, because courage for me is a vital component of being a rock star CFO.
Courage, you have mentioned. Being courageous is not easy, but can be learned.
Yes.
There are tricks, there is a learning curve, which is the good news, right? We can be in the very technical side of things, the functional side of things, but we can learn how to act on that. Which are your tips to show courage? Yeah,
no. I mean, courage absolutely can be learned, and people have the tendency to stay with what they know, so the traditional comfort zone. But everyone knows that the real action, the real growth occurs just beyond the comfort zone. So you have to step out of your comfort zone. So the way that this can be done is to make decisions on a daily basis, to step out once, twice a day. And this can be done in a number of ways, right? So, for example, many people, there are difficult conversations that we have to have. We know that with employees, with our boss, with the CEO, and people generally tend to avoid them naturally because they're difficult conversations. Yeah. So how do we do this how do we learn this courage? Well, we practice these skills having difficult conversations when they're not vital. So, telling an employee that where they can improve, going to an incident where maybe in the past you'd have just overlooked it. Now you go there, you practice getting uncomfortable, doing these things, and just to build up the courage to do them when the time comes that's important. Things like, I don't know, giving a presentation. Some people do not like speaking in public. How do you get the courage to stand up and speak in public? Well, you practice. You practice by giving smaller presentations to smaller groups. You may feel uncomfortable. I know CFOs who've been around for many years, they still feel uncomfortable giving presentations. The only way to overcome that is to practice. Making decisions, this is a courageous act, vital. So you have to get used to making decisions and owning up to when things can, maybe don't work out right. And you practice this with minor decisions, right? You practice it with things that aren't vital. So then you're building up this muscle so that when the time comes, you're able to do it when it really counts. So very much I believe courage can be built, and it just takes every day just stepping out, feeling uncomfortable, feeling a little bit under pressure is a really important feeling to have. If you feel comfortable all the time, then you're not growing and you're not doing your job as a rock star CFO. So you have to work on this.
Yeah. Peter, what you mentioned about practicing and giving yourself the space to maybe even fail, yes. Right? Sometimes. Yes. It reminds me a lot about how innovation works.
Yes.
Innovation works by trying error in a controlled space, and we know innovation is vital as we want to grow. How you see that cycle of trial and error?
Yeah, no. I mean, it's vital not just for the CFO, but also to transmit that to their teams, right? So it's not just all these things we're talking about. It's also very important that your direct reports as a CFO, you begin to instill these values and these things. Encourage, right? It means to give courage too. So you have to give them the courage. It's very difficult for finance people generally because we tend to be perfectionists. So we want everything to be reconciled and straight and perfect.
And
so
accurate
to admit
the
mistakes, to try something that we can get wrong, I think goes against our natural tendency. But we have to be able to do it. And when we have to also let our people do the same, right? So we can't be, admit our mistakes and then come down heavily on someone in our team that is trying something new. So you're absolutely right. Creativity, innovation comes from trial and error. Again, it's a matter of going through the process. I always say baby steps, right? You try this in like where we are here, like a lab. You try something where it's not. If it does go wrong, it's not terribly vital for your performance of your company. But you try this as a methodology, which is today is vital, and then you grow this ability to do it when it counts. It's more important. Yeah. But today, I mean, anyone who doesn't make a decision waits to be like a second, third, fourth mover. Things move so fast in any environment that you're not going to be the rock star. You're always going to be following the crowd. So you have to learn this skill. And that's all I can say. I mean, I think it's important to just break out of your natural tendency to want everything to be 100% controlled, because in today's world, nothing is 100% controlled.
And we'll keep on being less and less. So we
Absolutely.
Better get prepared and, as you've mentioned, train on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Peter, I thank you so much for bringing this to us. Whom I thought that Greek philosophy could be linked to a financial profession, which seems to be so much into the numbers and to the perfection and accuracy, as you've mentioned. But there is definitely a link, because there is an art in numbers as well, at least an art in decision making.
Absolutely, no, absolutely. I mean, I always say that to be not just a CFO rock star, but any type of leadership or leader, you have to have a philosophy. You have to know what you stand for, what your values are, and you have to be very aware of your skill set, where you're strong and where you need work, right? So all of this comes into philosophy. I know it sounds a bit strange to be linking Greek philosophy with leadership, but actually, if you look at someone who's a leader and doesn't have a clear philosophy of what they stand for, these people tend to change with the wind, right? Depending on the on the trend of the day, they're moving one way or the other. A good, strong, rock star CFO needs to be very clear what they stand for. So for me, there's a natural link between philosophy and strong leadership.
I thank you so much, Peter, for sharing this so generously with us. As a summary or as a takeaway, I think it's great. We are in a sweet moment as a profession. Finance professionals, CFOs, are being demanded to step up and to perform a role that goes beyond the traditional natural boundaries. So let's just jump into it, take it, and take the opportunity that it's given to us. And to achieve that, skills can be learned. So I think it's just great news, great challenge ahead of us. I thank you all for joining us in this Voice of Finance session. I hope to see you in the next one.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.